And we're back. Eminem going deep with another preseason episode. Cole, did you watch the Hall of Fame game?
I drunkenly watched the Hall of Fame game. Yes. I kickoffs. What do you think about the new kickoffs? You think that was better than expected, worse than expected from what you initially thought?
I remember watching it with when the XFL did it. I liked it because there has been like an absence of like special teams in football the last couple of years, especially kickoffs, and a lot of dudes that like we grew up watching wouldn't have made rosters if kickoff return and kickoff coverage weren't so valued, and having that those pieces kind of come back into the game, it makes their like it makes those underdogs be able to, kind of get a roster spot bet easier because they have to be good at something.
I thought, well, first there are some different rules compared to the XFLs.
Yeah, they change it a little
Like
bit.
the 20 versus the 30 and the 40 and all that bullshit. I expected more explosive plays, and I don't know if that was because we were in the preseason and we still don't have a strategy yet from the kick returns. But I think the NFL is looking at that in a good lens of, hey, there's not going to be crazy field position advantages for the receiving team, which I think initially people were like, oh, that guy is a really good returner. There's no way they're going to stop them on this play, like Debo Samuel in the Niners or um, the
Tyreek
Chiefs.
Hill on the
Yeah,
Dolphins.
the Dolphins or the Packers with Keyshawn Nixon, people think he's going to be good. It's just like I think there's like a safety there that the NFL has to feel about how well the defense handled and not to get too into the specifics, but I was watching the Bears play against the Texans on it and how they covered. And the gunners, usually how you have the gunner in the second to far left
Yeah.
and the second to far right when you're on the kickoff team. Usually they're the guys that pin their ears back and go after. They had their guys drop back and basically play like the second line of defense.
Like a
So they
soft zone.
they like slowly ran forward and everyone else pushed forward and those guys were like the second layer of defense.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like there's going to be weird strategies I think where teams kick it to one direction and like have a second because what you want is you want a second layer of defense there because if you
Yeah.
have the first layer
They
and
break
you
through. Yeah.
so like that's why everyone's worried is like oh all you gotta do is break through one layer of defense in this new system because it's only a 5 yard gap between the offense and the defense.
Yeah.
So it's like, how does the defense save? And that's why, like the Chiefs, not to get too into it, Chiefs have Justin Reed, the safety, and
Yeah.
he's a kicker, so he's going to be like a 11th player on the field and not
Yeah.
like a
Can
soft.
utilize him as like a guy that can be like safety over the top while on
Yeah,
kickoff coverage.
yeah. So I mean, there's like that's the type of shit too we're looking at. But
I wonder if
yeah,
that dude from Wisconsin who plays for the Texans will kick. They'll transition to him doing kickoffs.
Dario Ogunbowale, yeah,
Yeah,
he was he could have tried on the Texans on
I
but
want to
didn't.
hear from some kickers about is there more pressure to land the ball inside that box that they have to kick it into in order for them? Because if they kick it out of the box, right, doesn't the ball come to like out to like the 30 now?
Yeah, so here's like when you think about it like this is where it's really like a fucking flip of the game. You want to kick it, hang time is completely 180 now.
Yeah, because the two, it doesn't matter how long it's in the air. It's when the
Yeah,
dude catches it that everybody can come into one another.
or when it hits the ground. So
Yeah.
you want to line drive the ball and get it. How can you line drive it but get it in the 0 to 20
Hmm.
landing zone? And so like because as soon as you get the ball to hit the ground, that's when your defense can move. Or like that's when the kickoff team can pursue and move. So like you're actually wanting to get the ball on the ground as fast as possible versus in the other you want the ball to hang for 10 seconds. So it's like I there's going to be so much like strategy that people aren't going to know what the fuck they're doing in the first half of the season.
True. And then to go to caveat off that, how do you feel about the new onside kick rules? I hate it.
I mean, if how else would you dictate it if
You
it's not
can't
going to be
you can't onside kick in the first half, which there's almost no reason to. And but you have to announce to the other team that you're going to do an onside kick. Well, obviously like
I think
with these
you have to.
with these new rules, you have to. But like, I feel like there's a way for them to figure out how like if a team is down, they have to install something that if a team is down and they want to get the ball back, there has to be a better way for them to go about doing that. Like, there's so many different things they can do.
That I don't. I mean, I agree. It's not necessarily like cookie cutter, like how we would want it to pan out, but that's the solution. I don't know a better solution
Yeah.
than I like the idea of only being able to do it in the fourth quarter if you're down. Um,
I mean,
I
one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history would be taken away then.
okay, yeah, but
Is the Saints coming out after halftime and Thomas Morstead kicking the onside kick.
yeah. Now here's the thing. What's the alternative? The 4th and 12 play and shit like that.
Yeah, that one's a little
I would hate
funky.
that. I would hate that. Like to be honest, I hope that never sees the NFL ever. I do not like the idea that you can just get a 3rd and 12 or a 4th and 12 conversion on and get the ball back and just if you're Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, you take the
You
ball
do
like
that
the
every
entire.
time.
Yeah. And I get like you can do that in the fourth quarter only and shit like that, but I'm not about it.
Yeah, I don't like the 4th and 12 thing either. I think that they need to keep it towards a special teams thing because like we were saying with with the kickoff itself, it gives opportunity for dudes to get onto the 53-man roster during training camp and things like that. Um, but okay, let's pivot into our episode for today. So we talked to you guys last week about basically a synopsis of the whole NFL from Super Bowl to that week in time and space. These next 4 weeks that we're going to come up to the regular season, we're just going to cover uh specific divisions. So today we're going to be talking about the NFC East and the AFC East. You want to start with the NFC East? Anyways, the NFC East. All right, let's start with the Cowboys. Cowboys kind of drew a pretty tough schedule to start the season. They'll be in Cleveland week 1, then home against the Saints, home against the Ravens, at the Giants, at the Steelers, home against the Lions by week 7. So in that first 7 games, I think that they have one, two, three, four, five tough matchups, with the Saints being probably their weakest. I know they've slaughtered the Giants the last couple of years, but Giants have gotten a little bit better. I think Brian Dable's probably going to be coaching for his fucking job this year. Um, so I would think that the Giants are probably going to like close the gap. Maybe it'll be a tougher game. They'll probably still come out with a win, but those f four other opponents of the Browns, Ravens, Steelers, and Lions, that's not easy.
Browns week 1, that's a really tough game. I like the Browns in that. Saints, Ravens, Ravens, that's a really tough game, but you're at home. I'd still probably take the Ravens in that. Then Giants, Steelers in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. That's a good matchup. Um, I see I'll give that a loss. Lions, let me give them a win there. And then what? Niners, they'll lose on the road. That's 4 losses. Then we
Uh,
go to
Week 9, they're at the Falcons. I don't know what to expect out of the Falcons.
they're gonna beat the Falcons. Then we got Eagles, they'll go 1-1. So they'll get 4 losses there.
That's so they're at home against Philly in that one.
Yeah, so let's give them a win. Texans, let's say they lose. Let's say the Texans go into Dallas and beat them. So
The Texas Bowl.
that's 5 losses. Then I wouldn't be shocked if the Commanders go 1-1 with them. I'll give Jane Daniels and that new offense, Austin Eckler, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. I'll give them a win. Um, so let's go 6 losses. Then you got Bengals. Do they lose to the Buccaneers or the Bengals? I'll say no. So I have the Cowboys at 6 losses on the year. And I will say this, when you're looking at what you're worried about or what they have going for them, my biggest concern, and we talked about this last week, is their running game. I know you look at they don't have uh, Pollard anymore. Tony Pollard's gone.
Hmm.
And then Zeke Elliott is, 3 years past his prime,
Yeah.
4 years past his prime. So he's not the same Zeke. And you just wonder if, they lost Tyron Smith. They replaced him with Tyler Guyton. He's raw. I know that coming from Oklahoma as the first round draft pick, he's really talented and athletic, but bad hand placement from what scouts said and everything about that. Um, Cooper Beebe from Kansas State, I think, is actually more starter ready on the offensive line than Tyler Guyton. So I could see Beebe filling in interior wise for Tyler Biotish. And yeah, I think they're going to be, again, a top 4 or 5 team in the NFC. I see it being the Niners, Lions, Packers in that order, and then I see it being probably the Cowboys and then the Eagles as the 4 and 5.
So you're saying, just to like point something out to you, is you're saying that the Cowboys will win the NFC East?
I think that it really depends on when you're looking at Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons.
Is CeeDee Lamb even in camp right now? Because
I
he wants a
don't
new contract.
I don't that's something I should know, or we should, I guess, but I don't like the Cowboys. I don't
I'm
care
pretty
about the
certain he's
Cowboys.
not.
And I know there's just contract disputes there. I think they're going to be offensively, the Cowboys have always been very good. What scared me about the Eagles was their offense took a shit last year at the end of the year. And like, okay, they got the offensive coordinator from the Dallas Cowboys to now be the guy for them. So is he going to get their offense back on track? Maybe we'll see. But I'd say that the reason they need to be concerned, run game, the reason to be excited, they have Dak Prescott, who, again, I'm not the biggest Prescott fan, but he has been productive in the regular season every year for the Cowboys and always been at the
It's true.
top of his game. And he's got CeeDee Lamb, who's at the peak of his powers. They have a good passing game, and I would be shocked if they don't put up points. And their defense still has a lot of talent. So I still think their defense isn't going anywhere, and I think their offense has a lot of star power, and I think they're going to win a lot of big games.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they pivot from Dan Quinn's defense to now Mike Zimmer's defense. That'll be like interesting watch. I do agree with what you said with Dak. Everybody talks about him like, is he a superstar? Is he not? Are they going to pay him? Are they not? Um, but he is serviceable and he does win big games for the Cowboys, and he has done that time in and time out. So the way that you're talking like the Cowboys are going to win that NFC East this year, which would be the first time since like the early 2000s that it'd be a repeat winner of the NFC East. That is one thing. Like, I don't believe in like things like that, but I like caution when I like think about that. I do favor the Eagles to the Cowboys in this division because I think the Eagles got better. I think Nick Sirianni's probably going to figure it out, but and they have kind of a weaker schedule than the Cowboys. Um, but you had the Cowboys with 6 losses. I have them templated with 7 losses. Their win total on FanDuel right now is over under 9.5 wins. So by your count, you would have them over 9.5. I would be one, two, three, four,
You'd be
five,
over as
six,
well.
7, 8, 9, 10, and we'd both be over. I'd be a little
Um,
concerned if to hit that. 9.5 is a good number for them.
yeah, I'm surprised it's not maybe 10 and a half. But that being said, let's go. You want to go to the Eagles? Just because I'm not saying that I think I'll go through the Eagles schedule and tell you right now what I think they'll go. Um,
Okay, so the Eagles over before you start, I'll do the Eagles um win total. Eagles win total right now is set at 10.5 on FanDuel.
10 and a half.
Yep.
So they're supposed to win the division.
Yep.
Okay. So I mean, I'm looking at my second computer is taking a shit right now. I'm gonna week one they play the Packers. I'm gonna go with a win there. They get a win. I think Falcons. I think they'll get a win there at home. And then I think the Saints is where you're like, okay, they're going to be on the first road game. I think it could be tricky, but I'll give them a win. Buccaneers, I'm gonna go loss. So I'll go 3-1. I think Browns, I think they win. I'll go 4-1. That's at in Philly. Giants 5-1. Bengals, let's go 5-2. Jaguars, let's go 6-2. At Cowboys, let's go loss 6-3. Commanders 7-3. Rams, let's go 7-4. I think they lose to the Rams. And then, especially on Sunday Night Football in LA, lose to the Ravens 7-5. Beat the Panthers 8-5. Beat the Steelers 9-5. Um, let's go big crucial game against the Commanders. Commanders win. They're 9-6. They beat the Cowboys. They're 10-6. And then it comes down to I'd say they beat the Giants. They're 11-6. So I have two 11-6 teams.
Yeah,
I don't know how tiebreakers.
I got them with 10 wins. I think
You
I
have
th
two 10-win teams in the NFC East. I have two 11-win teams.
yeah. I have them losing to the Packers opening week, but I have them beating the Falcons in the second week. Um I fucked that up. Actually, no. I have more wins for them. I have 11 wins for them. I have them beating the Falcons, Saints, Buccaneers. So they go into their bye week in week 4 at 3-1. I have them losing to the Browns, but I could see them beating the Browns pretty easily. And then Giants win, at Bengals loss, Jaguars win, at Cowboys loss, Commanders win, at Rams, at Ravens. That's tough. LA and then Boston, not Boston, Baltimore. So I have two losses there, and then have them finishing out the season on a 5-win streak, which gets them to 11. So
I
they,
think the concern I think the concern is the trenches are they still have a lot of young talent on the defensive line.
yeah, losing
They've
Jason Kelsey's huge.
Yeah, but even defensive line, Fletcher Cox is gone, Hassan Reddick's gone. They've got Nolan Smith, they need to step up. They've got um Bryce Huff they got from the Jets, who's they paid him good money. He's supposed to replace Hassan Reddick as that short, smaller statured, like fast pass rusher.
Yeah, Jalen
Um,
Carter.
Jalen Carter, you got fucking what's 6'7". How am I missing his name? Georgia.
Yeah, it's the other
Uh,
Georgia kid.
the man, the guy, number 98.
Yeah, he's the
Um,
dude. I can't remember his name either.
he's fucking the beat him off. God, I fucking know his name. I'm gonna remember it. But they've got that defensive line. I still think it's gonna be formidable, but I don't think they're as deep as they were in the past. They don't have that veteran presence. Um, Mekhi Becton, that the left tackle from the Jets, kind of a underwhelming player so far in his career. Paris Campbell, I love that player. I think he's going to be a great addition to the offense. Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, big. They had a terrible secondary last year. They bring them in along with C.J. Gardner Johnson. Um, Devin White, good linebacker for them to have. I know he's got a prove it year this year on that 1 year deal. And then I mean, that's pretty much their offseason. I think their biggest concern is how deep are they? They I don't think they're as deep as they were in the past, and they also is their offense going to be back on track? I think what you have to again, similar to the Cowboys, you have to respect their star power both on the offense and defensive side of the ball. And I don't think Jalen Hurts is the type of player that's going to just fucking rot away and never be good. He has the work ethic, the star power ability to be good in this league. And unless he's injured, I foresee them in that offensive uh pass catching group,
Yeah,
probably.
I think that bringing in Saquon Barkley is a great addition for them. I liked DeAndre Swift there. I thought they used him kind of poorly, but Saquon Barkley returning home, he's a Pennsylvania guy. I don't know if he's ever said he's always wanted to play for the Eagles, but kind of seemed that way, especially with like the clip I saw of Joe Schoen calling him, being like, "Do I have a chance?" Sounded like he was gone off the bat. They've made some good additions. I liked your synopsis of them, like their draft picks. Yeah, I think can Nick Sirianni get Jalen Hurts clicking again? A lot of people like started doubting Jalen Hurts last year. I don't think he's that bad. I think he's kind of like a Dak Prescott. But I think he'll rely more on his legs. Will we see the tush push at all this year? I don't know because that Jason Kelsey was a big part of that. But you have burners on the outside with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. They're gonna be open. At least one of them is, and then Dallas Goedert is still a very good tight end in the league. Always puts up his numbers. I just think that the two big things for them are just Jalen Hurts and their defense because their defense fell apart last year, just like absolutely decimated.
Yeah.
I think their defense will be better this year because they did fire their defensive coordinator last year and then brought in Matt Patricia, and that wasn't a good fit at all.
I also will say on what you mentioned, Barkley, I completely forgot to bring him up. I think he'll have 1,200 yards, 10 plus touchdowns. Like I see him,
If
you
he
mentioned
stays
the tush
healthy.
push. I, but I think, I always have this thing where guys like him, their first year on that type of deal, when they change locations, they always it's fruitful. I don't see a situation where he has a bad year unless he's obviously season-ending injury, but that's aside. Um, Next
Oh,
team, command.
one more touch I wanted to have. A lot of people didn't like how the linebackers of Philly played last year. I do think Nakobe Dean will step up. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries since he entered the NFL. I still love Nakobe Dean. He was a Georgia guy. Was like the Cerberus of that Georgia defense when they won the national championship 2 years ago. 2 years ago? Yeah. Um, but a guy they brought in the draft that is Philly royalty, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson. So they get a guy's son that was pretty like a big name for Philly for a long time in those early 2000s when we were growing up. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. gets drafted to Philly. I thought he was going to be I thought he was going to be a stud. I really wanted the Browns to get him. But he ends up in Philly. I think that's a big get for Philly. I want to see him do well.
Okay, yeah. I think Dean and him are different linebackers for sure.
Hmm.
Dean is skinny, small, and not that fast either, but he's
Smart as
instinctual.
fuck.
Yeah, and I think Trotter is a very box linebacker, downhill, packs a punch when he tackles. Um, anyways, Commanders, Jaden Daniels, the year of the rookie QB. Let's see how he can turn things around. I will say Buccaneers week 1 in Tampa, loss. Giants week 2, I'm gonna go with a loss. Bengals week 3, I'm gonna go with a loss. Cardinals week 4 in Arizona, I'm gonna go with a loss. Browns week 5, loss. Ravens loss. Panthers win. So they get their first win. They go 1-6. Bears loss, 1-7. Giants again, let's go win, 2-7. Steelers 2-8. Eagles 2-9. Cowboys 2-10. Titans 3-10.
So you give him a win before the bye week.
Saints 4-10. So they pull another one out. Eagles, I gave him a loss here. So I'm gonna give him a win. 5-10. Falcons, Falcons, this is where it gets interesting. I'm gonna go win 6-10. Cowboys loss. So they go 6-11.
Sheesh. I have them at 4-13. I have wins in week 2 against the Giants, week 7 in the Panthers, week 13 against the Titans, and then week 17 for the Falcons. So you touched it. Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, playing for the Washington Commanders, new head coach Dan Quinn. They bring in Cliff Kingsbury to be the guy to call the plays on offense for Jaden Daniels. They still have Terry McLaurin. They brought in Austin Eckler as a running back. I think Austin Eckler, I've loved him for years. He's been great in LA, San Diego, but he's getting up there in age, and there's a reason why they didn't re-sign him. Win total right now for Washington Commanders on FanDuel is 6.5. I have the under on that one. You have the under as well. You put them at 6.
Mhm.
I could see them not making that 6.5. 6.5, I feel like it's is high for them.
I think they just there's a lot of games that you could put them in like, oh, well, do they capture one or two of those early? I think their schedule lightens up in the end, but that's kind of the gauntlet they have in the first 7 weeks of the season. Um, yeah, I think right now you're looking at their offense, and they brought in Biotish from the Cowboys, Dorrance Armstrong from the Cowboys, Allegretti, good pickup. Jeremy Chin from the Panthers. I liked him. He kind of fell off after his rookie year, but I think he's still a really good prospect. Brandon Coleman in the third round, really good offensive lineman from TCU. I thought he was underrated. Um, Austin Eckler, I think he's kind of on his down slope of his career now, but I still think he's a very good valued veteran addition to that offense, especially to help out in pass pro in the pass game for Jaden Daniels. Zach Ertz, I think he's just about a skeleton of himself now from what he used to be, but
Yeah.
sure, that's an addition. Um, Dante Fowler, good player. Frankie Louvu, great player. Uh, they get Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle, who was potentially supposed to be a top 10 pick in the draft in the second round. That's a really good player, a piece to build with their already really good defensive line. And then Ben Sinnott from Kansas State and Mike Sainristil, the corner out of Michigan, good players. They really only lose Curtis Samuel. He's gone. That's a significant loss to what their offense kind of had. And then Sam Howell's gone, Brissett's gone, and Antonio Gibson, who had a couple decent years for them, is gone. So I'd say their weakness, unproven offense, and their strength is their front seven. And can they continue to, you know, build on that and live up to their potential and actually show that they are a formidable defense that can keep their offense in games.
Yeah, I mean they brought in Bobby Wagner and Jeremy Chin. Those are two very good veteran players on defense. I think that their defense could be a little bit better than they were last year. I just don't trust rookie quarterbacks, and I think they got a bad draw this year with their schedule, with their bye week being in week 14. Like if Jaden Daniels doesn't start hot and then, they go through this gauntlet, like
Mm-hmm.
does he lose confidence?
I don't think he's the type of player that you're worried about his confidence. I'm worried about his health. I don't think he's one of those like that's going to get rattled. I think he'll be fine in the mental state. I'm more concerned about if he can play the style he wants to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he has the protection and everything up front to be able to play the way he likes to play, but we'll see. Um, so we should go to the Giants right now. You have their win total up.
I have their win total for on FanDuel right now. Hang on. I had the Commanders one open. I gotta open the Giants. Giants right now over under 6.5 wins as well.
Okay. And I mean, we're talking a team that was 30th in points scored and 31st in what passing offense.
Yeah, they were bad.
So that's why you bring in a Malik Neighbors and from the Hard Knocks and Joe Shane, what he's preached about, we got to give Daniel Jones a chance. I think this is Daniel Jones' last chance for a starting job in the NFL. I really don't think he's getting another one if things don't work this year. I think he's gotten a fair shake at starting quarterback,
It's gonna be a great backup somewhere.
and I'll say week one against the Vikings, that's going to be a good game. I don't think that's going to be, but I'll pick the Vikings in that.
I want to know who the Vikings are gonna start at quarterback first.
I think it'll be JJ McCarthy,
If I
and
if it's JJ McCarthy, I'll take the Giants to win that game.
I love the offensive pieces around
JJ.
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, we'll get into that next time, but
Yeah. Commanders, I'm going to give the Giants a win, and then so they'll be 1-1, and then 1-2 against the Browns, 1-3 against the Cowboys, 1-4 against the Seahawks because it's in Seattle, 1-5 against the Bengals, 1-6 against the Eagles, 1-7 against the Steelers, 2-7 against the Commanders, Panthers, No, wait, I split the games, so they're 1-8. I gave the Commanders that one, so they're going to be 2-8, beat the Panthers. I think they're going to be 2-9, lose to the Bucks. They'll be 2-10, lose to the Cowboys, and then I'll give them a win against the Saints, 3-10. They're going to lose to the Ravens, 3-11, and I'll have them lose to the Falcons, 3-12. I'll have them beat the Colts, 4-12, and I'll have them lose to the Eagles, 4-13.
Damn. Tough one for the Giants this year. I have them beating the Vikings week one and then going on a skid, just like how you had them. But I have them beating the Steelers in Pittsburgh, then winning again against the Commanders at home, beating the Panthers in Carolina, going into the bye week with 4 wins. Coming out of the bye week, I think they beat the Buccaneers. Just one of those odd games. Feel like they would do well coming out of a bye week. Then at the Cowboys loss, but rounding out the season, beating the Saints, beating the Falcons, beating the Colts. So I have them with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins.
So my thing there is I'll name the defensive backs. Like they have a good front seven, and I think that's something where you can be like, oh wow, like they can stop the run
Yeah,
and then get to the quarterback. But you have to bet on Tyler Nubin and Andrew Phillips, the two rookies that they've gotten the second day of the draft to
yeah,
be players because they lost Xavier McKinney. They only have Deontay Banks, and he was a rookie last year. He had a promising year. He should be good this year. But Cordale Flott, Dane Belton, Trey Herndon, Jason Pinnock as their starting players. I mean, I see Elijah Riley on there and as a backup. He was a former Army 2019 West Point guy. He was good. He was a good player. I don't know if he's a Pro Bowler, but hopefully he is.
Pro Bowler.
He played well for the Eagles. I believe he played in the Steelers too. But no, I don't know about this. I think they're going to not be as good as they could be on defense because they don't have a formidable back secondary. And then I think Daniel Jones is going to struggle to produce on offense. And that could be because of their offensive line, but we'll see.
Yeah, I
Devin
mean,
Singletary's not Saquon Barkley either.
yeah, I think I've been looking at a couple of dudes on Twitter talking about this. A lot of people are really high on Tyrone Tracy out of Purdue. I don't know why. I'm kind of staying
I
away
like
from
him.
that. I mean, I
I like
like
him.
him, but I'm staying away from it because I feel like it's just going to try and convince me to draft Tyrone Tracy in a late round in one of my fantasy drafts, and I just don't want to make that mistake. Um, I could potentially see Daniel Jones losing his starting job to Drew Lock towards the end of the year, and I haven't written off Drew Lock. I think
I like Drew Lock.
I like Drew Lock too, and I could see him and Malik Neighbors being a good tandem. They did also have Isaiah McKenzie, another speed guy. They also had another wide receiver last year that what is this? Wandale Robinson.
Yeah, love him.
I love Wandale Robinson too. I don't know.
Single-handedly beat the Packers.
Yeah, and I think that I think Brian Burns is a great addition, especially on the other side of Kayvon Thibodeau. You are right with their secondary being their weak spot, Xavier McKinney, but the Giants' defense for the last couple seasons, for some reason, has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Even though their offense has been absolutely terrible. Yeah, Daniel Jones, he's got to step up this year, but like I said earlier, I think that Drew Lock could potentially t take his starting job. That's kind of why I slated the Giants to have a little bit of of a stretch at the end of the year, kind of where they get hot around after that bye week in week 11, come out of the bye week. I could see that change kind of taking place right there, especially like I mentioned earlier, Brian Dable's probably going to be coaching for his job if he doesn't have a good season. So if they have a poor bye week, well, I do have them winning the 3 weeks before the bye week too. But I don't know. I could see them pulling the plug on Daniel Jones. I know that Joe Schoen keeps saying we got to give him a shot, we got to give him a shot, but you've already seen a lot out of him, and it's not great. But we'll continue this as the season goes on. But let's slide into the AFC East now. Wait, let me go back. NFC. So I have templated the Eagles winning the NFC East, Cowboys coming in second, then the Giants, then the Commanders. You have Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, Giants. But yeah, so that's the difference between us.
Okay, yeah, my just internet just went out as soon as when you said you have the Eagles winning the AFC East or NFC East, and then I went to that's the difference between us. I think there was like, I was, yeah, I don't know who's gonna win, Cowboys or Eagles. I have them both with the same record. I think both teams are very equal, and it's gonna come down to injuries and if close games in the fourth quarter, how they handle their bullshit and their adversity. But yeah, AFC East. You want to start with the Bills?
Yeah, we'll go to the AFC East. So the Bills, interesting this offseason. They kind of cleaned house a little bit. They kind of noticed that they keep running into the same brick wall over and over again. And what is it, Murphy's Law, that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you're expecting a different outcome, that's the definition of insanity. So they kind of cleaned house a little bit. I was a little bit surprised that Sean McDermott wasn't let go. Um, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like he keeps getting them to where they want to be and they keep losing. Some of the decisions he made in that playoff game were so asinine. The biggest one is the Damar Hamlin fake punt shit.
Okay, you don't fire one of the best coaches in the NFL because of a ballsy decision. I get it. I'm not saying
We've seen it happen before.
if it was successful.
Didn't the Packers fire Mike McCarthy after he went to the playoffs with them?
No, the Packers fired Mike McCarthy after not getting the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers in his prime for 2 years straight. 2017 and 2018, the Packers missed the playoffs.
There's got to be
And
somebody. There's got to be somebody that I'm just missing that a team has fired when their team went to the playoffs. But anyways, like I said, they kind of cleaned house. They got rid of Gabe Davis. Mitch Morse is gone. Jordan Poyer's gone. Big one being Stephon Diggs. We mentioned it last week that they drafted Keon Coleman. They're going to go with Keon Coleman on the outside with their two big tight ends of Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. James Cook kind of became a very good asset for them last year out of the backfield. They had a decent draft, which we talked about, which I mentioned with Keon Coleman. A couple other picks that they had are Cole Bishop out of Utah, Ray Davis out of Kentucky, the running back. Another, not really anybody else who's jumping off the page to me that I remember highlighting and that I wanted the Browns to get out of this. But yeah, Bills move forward. I still think that they're the favorite to win the AFC East. Their win total right now on FanDuel is 10.5, and we'll get into the schedule with you. What are your opening thoughts about the Bills?
well, they got Samuel. They needed receiver help. They brought in Mac Hollins from the Eagles. No, was Mac Hollins Eagles or was he Raiders? Either way, former UNC product. That's going to be he'll be fighting for wide receiver 4. You got Keon Coleman. You got Curtis Samuel. I think that's enough to use around Dalton Kincaid and around Dawson Knox at tight end. Connor McGovern, really good offensive lineman from New York. And then you've got who you lost, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, staples at safety for them, but they really had to move on because they were getting older and it wasn't going to be cheap.
They're also
Dane
injury prone.
Jackson, Dane Jackson and Tre'Davious White, pretty much their entire secondary. And then they lose Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, and Mitch Morse. So I don't know. I mean, that's a huge haul that they lost. Like you said, they cleaned house. I think it's one of those teams that they kind of remind me a little bit about the Packers. Like when Aaron Rodgers is in his prime, doesn't matter what type of supporting cast you have, you're typically always in the mix for the Super Bowl. And I think this might not be their best roster that they have right now, but I think they're going to be a very formidable team. They're going to make the playoffs. Actually, I won't even say they'll make the playoffs. I think they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I think their floor is they miss the playoffs. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills miss the playoffs. I also wouldn't be shocked if they go to the Super Bowl. That's what I'll say. And then with that, I'll say week one, Cardinals. I'll give them in Buffalo. I'll give them a win, week one. Week two at Dolphins. I'll give them a loss. They're 1-1. Jaguars at home. I'll give them a win, 2-1. Ravens loss, 2-2. Texans at Houston, 2-3. They lose. Jets, they go 2-4. They lose it in New York. And then Titans, they beat the Titans 3-4. Seahawks beat the Seahawks 4-4. Um, Dolphins again at home, 5-4. They win. Colts on the road, 6-4. Chiefs at home, 6-5. Niners at home, 6-6.
They're playing the two Super Bowl teams
Yeah.
almost in
And
back-to-back
then they play the
weeks.
Rams in LA. And then they
Rams in
play the
LA
Rams.
and then the Lions.
And then so I'm gonna go Rams, they'll win. They have to. This is critical. 7-6. That's the hardest stretch. That's the hardest 4-game stretch in the NFL. Because that's a road game too. Both road games. 7-6. And then I'm gonna go, well, they got a bye week in between there, but
Yeah.
7-6. And then we'll go Lions 7-7. And then they beat the Patriots 8-7. They have to beat the Jets. Have to. That's their season. 9-7. They beat the Jets at home. And then Patriots. I think this could be like a playoff clinching game scenario. If they win, they're in. If they lose, they're out. I think they win. They go to 10-7.
Yeah, this is a tough schedule for the Bills. And you have Aaron Rodgers returning to the Jets. So the Jets are on paper going to be a much better team than they were last year. And then the Dolphins have been right behind the Bills the last few years overall and have given the Bills a tough test. So you had them going 10-7. I have them going 12-5.
Do you have them winning some of those close games?
So I have their losses being week 2 at the Dolphins, week 4 at the Ravens, week 6 at the Jets. I feel like the Bills start slow, so I could see them easily being in week 6 being 3-3. But then I feel like they start putting it together against the Titans. I feel like the Seahawks, they can win that game. Then they're home against the Dolphins, win that game. Colts win. Chiefs, the same as you, loss bye week, lose against the 49ers. I probably would say close. And then they round out the season on a roll. Beat the Rams, beat the Lions, Patriots, Jets, Patriots. Win those 5 games, 12-5. That probably would put them at the top of the AFC East for me. But we'll get into that. But that is a tough schedule as you were going through it. Chiefs bye week, 49ers at Rams, at Lions.
You could be like, you could be onto something saying that they win some of those and get 12 wins. I just, I don't see the experience on offense like in years past. I know they have Cook and they can run the ball, but I just think there's going to be this will be Josh Allen's toughest test so far. And it seems
Yeah.
like every year it becomes like Josh Allen has to take on even more for that team every single year. And like, you really look at it and like him and Mahomes are the two people I look at and I'm like, they're doing more for their team than like other quarterbacks are. And I think that's like what Aaron Rodgers had to do from 2013 to 2018. He didn't have a supporting cast that was really up there with others, and he had to just kind of make it work. And I think that's what Josh Allen's going to have to do this year to keep them in the mix and in the playoffs. And I think they will get to the playoffs at 10-7, but it's going to be one of those where they squeak in just like they did this past season.
I don't know if 10-7 will do it, man.
Well, last year they were what, 9-8 or 10-7? I think they were 9-8 and they got in the playoffs. Or they were
They,
bad.
they won their division.
Yes, but you remember they were like there was
In the beginning weeks of the season last year, I remember them being bad.
Bills 2023 season.
And then at the end of the season, they went on a roll. They were the hottest team going into the playoffs.
So they won 5 games going in the playoffs. So
Yeah,
they were at 6-6.
They were not a great team. And then they turned it around and they won five in a row to
Yeah.
get in the playoffs, win the division. And I mean, the Dolphins helped them out too, losing that Thursday night game against the Titans when they had like a 14-point lead.
Bills last year, 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, 5-5,
This is great
six and
podcasting.
five, 6-6, and then they went on their run. Yeah, we talked about it. All right. Anyways, let's go to the Jets.
You're going to the Jets. Okay. Jets. All right, let's talk about the Jets real quick. Jets. Obviously, the biggest thing is Aaron Rodgers coming off his Achilles injury. You saw four plays out of him last year. They move on from Zach Wilson. They trade him to Denver. They bring in Tyrod Taylor to be the backup. I love Tyrod Taylor. He's just a journeyman, still always being a nice backup. They signed Mike Williams, another piece on the outside. They also like that's another thing with the Jets. They kind of needed a little help around Garrett Wilson because Garrett Wilson started getting double covered. So Williams will be on the outside. If he stays healthy, that's a good tandem right there. I love Brees Hall. I think he's a great running back. He was obviously coming off his ACL injury the year prior and then did have a really good season. He kind of fell off a little bit, like where he started the season really big, had some big gains, and then he I think defenses just started planning for him. You got to remember too, the Jets beat the Chiefs last year, which is what one of the most wild games. Um, any other Solomon Thomas and Hassan Reddick get added to their defense, which their defense was already pretty good last year. They kind of just got really tired because Zach Wilson couldn't keep them on the field. They had like a just a wheel at quarterback. They draft Fashanu from Penn State to pad up their offensive line in the first round. He was one of the top offensive tackles in the draft. They get him to shore up that line, and then they move on from Mekhi Becton. I can see the Jets being a very good team, being a wild card team. I just don't see them beating out the Bills this year.
So let's go to the schedule. You already kind of gave the precedent of their draft class. Fashanu, first round, Malachi Corley, the Western Kentucky guy that's just really good after the catch. Could probably be a great kick return guy in this new kick return rules that we have. Braylon Allen, backup. And then really that's pretty much it for their draft class as far as who's going to produce year one. Niners, week one, they lose that game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Titans, week two, that's a win. They're 1-1. Patriots, week three, it's a win, 2-1. Broncos, week four, win. That's 3-1. Vikings, week five, at home, they're 4-1. Then they go to the Bills. They're at home. I have them losing. I have them winning this game because I gave the so I have them going to 5-1. Then the Steelers on the road, I'll go 5-2. And then let's go Patriots on the road, 6-2. Texans at home, 6-3, they lose. Cardinals, I have them. They should win that game. I'll have them going 7-2. Colts at home, 8-2. Seahawks, 9-2. Dolphins on the road, it's 9-3. Jaguars on the road, 9-4, let's say. And they lose to the Rams, 9-5. Bills, 9-6. And then they beat the Dolphins. They go to 10-11-6.
11 and
I have them at
6.
11-6. Yeah.
I have them at 10 and 7.
Okay. So we're
My differences are uh they lose to the Bills in that week 6 game. Um Lose to the Bills in week 17, lose to the Rams 16, lose to the Dolphins in week 14. So I got them at 10 and 7. And I also have them losing to the Texans. But I got them beating the Jaguars, Seahawks. sweeping the Patriots would be which would be wild, but it's not a Bill Belichick coached Patriots team anymore. So I have them at 10-7. I think that's a good pick for them. On FanDuel right now, the Jets are slated at a win-loss of over under 9.5. Both of us hit the over on that one.
9.5.
Yeah, they're slated for 9.5. I might put $1 on each of these that we do. Imagine I parlay it and nail it. Boom.
Then you're a rich man.
Do you want to go into the Dolphins or the Patriots?
Let's do Dolphins.
Dolphins, much more fun team than the Patriots. Dolphins, obviously, they're a fun team in the beginning of the year. They're very fast. They this year some additions that they have were Jonnu Smith at tight end, Kendall Fuller at cornerback, and Jordan Brooks, the linebacker. They lose Christian Wilkins, which honestly was a pretty big surprise to me. I think they just couldn't afford him with all the money that they had to pay Tua, Tyreek, and so on and so forth. They also lose Andrew Van Ginkel, which could be a big loss for them. In the draft, the Dolphins they
Chop
selected,
Robinson.
yeah, Chop Robinson from Penn State. After you read all these guys from Penn State getting drafted, how is Penn State not a better team? Uh, and also another pick that they had in the draft was Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. So now they have three running backs that are very good: Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, and Jalen Wright. I believe Devin Achane is probably going to be the starter from what it looks like in training camp. A lot of videos of him bursting through the hole, having that speed again, and on like when you look at the Dolphins roster, they are the fastest team in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, A-Chain, Mostert, fast guys. I think for running backs, Jalen Wright from Tennessee was the fastest 40-yard dash time this year at the combine. If I'm remembering
I
that
don't think he was
correctly.
fastest, but he was a 4.42, I believe.
Something
Um,
like that.
they
Dolphins
also got
win.
Jeff Wilson. They also have Jeff. They have four running backs. I think Jeff Wilson Jr. is still a really good player.
Jeff Wilson Jr. Just had to throw him out there. Oh, geez. They also signed Odell Beckham Jr. Didn't realize that.
And we're Paul. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Um, Kind of went with like older signings. Got some like veterans off to shore up their defense with Calais Campbell, Deshaun Hand, Anthony Walker. That's a old Cleveland guy. Anthony Walker on the Browns. I loved him, but he always got hurt. He's a leader at the linebacker slot, though. They also signed Marcus May and Jordan Poyer. Jordan Poyer leaves the Bills and goes to the Dolphins. Kind of crazy. I think his wife wanted him to go to Miami. I think that's just my personal opinion. Oh, and on FanDuel right now, the Miami Dolphins are slated for over under 9.5.
Okay. I'll go week one. Jacksonville at home. That's a win. Buffalo week two. I could give them a win here. At home. So 2-0. Seahawks on the road. They lose 2-1. Tennessee, they win 3-1. Win against New England 4-1. They lose to Colts 4-2. I'm gonna go. They beat Arizona at home 5-2. They lose to Buffalo the second time 5-3. They lose to the Rams 5-4. They beat Vegas 6-4. They beat the Patriots 7-4. They lose to the Packers 7-5. They hmm, they beat the Jets the first time 7-6. No, wait, 8-5. Then they lose to the Texans 8-6. They lose to the Niners 8-7. They fuck. They I'm gonna go. They lose to the fucking Browns 8-8, and then I think I had them beating or no, I had them losing this time. They 8-9. because I gave them the win against the. I think they split with the Jets, so I have the Dolphins at. I have them losing to the Jets once, the Niners, the Browns, the Texans,
So that means you're saying that
the Packers,
you're on page with me that they're gonna lose the last four games of the season.
Packers. No, I have them lose the last four. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Packers is five. I have them losing to the Rams at six. I have them losing to the Bills once. That's seven. Wait, this is eight. And then the Seahawks they lose, and then okay, they lose to the Jets one time. They lose to the Browns. They lose to the Niners. They lose to the Texans. They lose to the Packers. That's five. Then they lose to the Rams. They lose to the Bills once. They lose to the Colts. They lose to Seattle. It's nine.
9 losses.
Eight and nine.
Damn, tough. I have it going a little bit different for them. I can see the Dolphins coming out of the gates very good. I could see them being like I like Mike McDaniel as a head coach. I could see them being very good out of the gate. I could see them going into that bye week 5-0. And I have them templated to go 5-0 into that bye week. And then they, after the bye week, you had them losing to the Colts. I have them beating the Colts and then the Cardinals, and then their first loss being that at Bills game in week 9. I also have them losing at the Rams, beating the Raiders, beating the Patriots, losing to the Packers, beating the Jets at home, and then going on that 4-game losing streak at the end of the season, which would put them, for me, at 11-6. So that would put me Buffalo winning the AFC East, Dolphins right behind them, Jets right behind the Dolphins.
All right. So they missed the playoffs in my book. They are.
I don't see them missing the playoffs, man.
So you've got three teams with 10 plus wins in the NFC AFC East.
Yeah, it'll come down to tiebreakers.
So you must think, fuck. I mean, I'm curious how that math adds up in like a season schedule. Because like
Yeah, dude, I'm
AFC
very
North.
fearful for the Browns to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, all right. Humble chicken ass bitch. All right. Um, are you ready? So the good thing about the Dolphins, yeah, they've got fucking star power everywhere. They've
They're
got a
fast.
phenomenal head coach. What's their fucking weakness? Winter football, football in the weather. Tua Tagovailoa, whatever. Tua is good in the playoffs. He hasn't been. I like Tua. I want him to be. I just haven't seen it happen. And can he play well down the stretch, or is he just say September through November quarterback? We'll see. That's I think the weakness. Until they do differently, I think that's what the reputation will be. Should we do Patriots?
I mean, we could skip it, but
Yeah.
all right. So, Patriots this offseason have it's been a little bit of a rough patch for the New England, which growing up in New England, I don't mind seeing it. They won so many Super Bowls, were always in the playoffs, was always in the AFC Championship game like my entire life growing up. Patriot fans, it's time to get a little humble, but it's okay. The fucking Boston Celtics won the NBA championship, so you can write that home. So this is the first year that the New England Patriots will not have Bill Belichick on the sideline. It is now Gerard Mayo as their head coach. The Crafts, Robert Kraft came out with the tell-all documentary series called Dynasty. A lot of people, I agree that Robert Kraft is just trying to get himself into the Hall of Fame with that documentary because he kind of tore down Bill Belichick a little bit in it. Um, I think what Robert Kraft is doing is he's trying to get himself selected into the Hall of Fame prior to him passing away. He is getting up there in age, wants to be like Jerry Jones, but whatever. The other thing that the Patriots did, they had the third overall pick in the draft. They drafted Drake May out of North Carolina. I saw Drake May in person last year. He played Georgia Tech. I went to the Georgia Tech game, the homecoming night for Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech beat Drake May, and Georgia Tech was not good. Also, they kind of pulled a Washington Commanders thing with drafting Drake May early, and then later in the draft they took a pretty raw, talented quarterback in Joe Milton at Tennessee. I mean, Joe Milton, he was recruited to Michigan, didn't get the starting job there, obviously, and then he transferred to Tennessee where he became the starter and had a couple of good years, not great. Never really lived up to his talent that he has. Right now in camp, a lot of people are saying Joe Milton is outplaying Drake May, so we'll see. But if you spend the third overall pick on a quarterback, he's gonna be your starter. They also signed Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby's gonna be the like the quarterback while Drake May kind of gets seasoned. Right now on FanDuel, the New England Patriots are slated for over under 4.5 wins on the season. Pretty low number.
I think they're well below 4.5.
They
I'm
like
trying I'm trying to figure out. So I'll go Bengals loss, Seahawks loss, Jets loss, Niners loss, Dolphins loss, Texans loss, Jaguars loss, Jets loss. You know what? Jaguars still no, they're lost. They're not going to get a win. Titans win. Bears loss. Rams loss. Dolphins loss. Colts win. Cardinals loss at Arizona. At Buffalo loss. At home versus the Chargers loss. At home versus the Bills loss. They go 2-15.
Yeah, I got them at 2-15 too. I have them beating the Titans in week 9 and beating the Colts, like you said, in week 13, which probably won't happen. The early game that I could see them winning is
Seahawks.
the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I could see them winning that game.
Yeah.
That is a tough schedule off the bat. Bengals, Seahawks, Jets, 49ers, Dolphins, Texans, and then at Jaguars. Like the Jaguars fell off a little bit last year. Trevor Lawrence had his troubles, but
Well, in
I,
London, Jaguars.
yeah,
Technically it's a home game, but
yeah. So I don't know, man. Patriots have a tough year, and it's never good having a rookie quarterback. It's kind of what we talked about earlier with Jaden Daniels. They have a late bye week in week 14, which is funny because the Commanders also have a week 14 bye week. Um, so if Drake May is going to be your starter, these are a lot of tough games and tough defenses he's going to have to deal with. You're going to have to come up with a good game plan. I guess get Jalen Polk involved early, the wide receiver out of Washington. I don't know, man.
yeah. With that being said,
For fantasy
Packers,
outlook, I'm not drafting Ramondre Stevenson.
Packers Jets Super Bowl.
That's what you got.
No,
Packers, Jets.
I would love it though.
That'd be a wild one. You want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing.
All right. So, just the recap of the AFC East for us. I have the Bills winning at 12-5, then the Dolphins at 11-6, and then the Jets at 10-7, and then the Patriots at 2-15. Cole has the Jets winning the AFC East at whatever record, and then the Bills coming in second, and then the Dolphins coming in third, missing the playoffs. Wild. That'll do it for Eminem going deep this week. We'll see you guys next week when we cover the Norths.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then if you are watching baseball this year, a couple guys that I like to bet on home runs. A couple guys that I'm high on today are Vladimir Guerrero already hit a home run. I was high on him today. A couple other guys that I'm high on today are Bryce Harper, and Jose Ramirez, and Luis Roberts. So bet your home runs, baby. Dingers only. See you guys next time.